telling you that it's not him. I'm telling you it's you.
No, it's you.
You can't make it up.
Actually,
you don't listen.
No,
and you give them, and you give the people outside of our house more respect than you give me. At the end of that.
You crazy?
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Here's the problem. You don't get to. Why would I care about them?
Because you.
Do I talk about Marquez? When do I talk about Marquez outside of the 6 times we have the conversations about?
Yes, we do. Both of them live rent-free in this goddamn house.
This whole situation with Ken, Trisha, and Marquez is hands down one of the biggest scandals happening in Huntsville right now. Everybody's talking about it, and honestly, it feels like a storyline that was written for TV, except this is real life. It's messy, it's dramatic, and it's leaving fans speechless. And let me tell you, if you stick with me until the very end of this story, you're going to see why people can't stop gossiping about it. It's wild, it's complicated, and it's creating tension that feels bigger than the show itself. So go ahead, grab your snack, sit back, and let's break this down. Because what's happening between these three is more than just a breakup, it's turning into one of the most explosive situations we've seen in Huntsville in a long time. First things first, Trisha and Marquez are officially done. Their divorce has finally been signed, sealed, and finalized. It took forever to get here, and anyone who's been following their rocky relationship knows just how many obstacles stood in the way.
Okay with this, you trying to make it seem like I have issue with men that no, it's the issue is with you. How you talking to me? You didn't talk. You don't do that when you on. You don't do that when you're around nobody else. You don't care about me either. Why would you do? Why would you go harder on somebody you care about than somebody you don't care about? That absolutely makes no sense.
Because I don't have no.
That makes no sense. You're supposed to be more subtle and more open to communication with me.
Because it's frustrating me that you keep asking me. That's
it's not keep asking. I only ask you when the situation and you lied.
The official reason given in court? Temperamental incompatibility. Now, that might sound like legal talk for we just couldn't make it work, but let's be real, that has to be the understatement of the century. These two couldn't agree on what day it was, let alone how to run a household or raise their child. So no, nobody is shocked that it ended this way. The divorce was more of a matter of when than if. But here's the kicker, the drama didn't die with the paperwork. In fact, the moment those papers were signed, things only got hotter. The court didn't just finalize the divorce, they put some very strict rules in place. Trisha was granted primary custody of their daughter, but they're sharing joint custody on paper. That might sound reasonable enough, but when you dig deeper, things get complicated. See, Marquez was given visitation rights, but there's a twist. He's not allowed to have overnight visits until he proves a few very specific things.
I'm trying to get Trisha to understand is that whole privacy thing that she has going on doesn't work for our relationship anymore. Like if I ask her a question to her is an accusation. And I'm like, no, an accusation is an accusation. An accusation is me telling you, you did this. Me asking you a question is trying to figure out what actually went on, and it's not me. I can't tell you what you did if I don't know what you did. You gotta tell.
He has to have a home of his own. He needs utilities in his name. He has to pass 3 consecutive drug tests. That's right. The court ordered drug testing. And let's pause on that, because judges don't just throw that in for no reason. That usually happens when someone makes a serious accusation about drug use. So what does that tell us? Somebody, most likely Trisha or someone close to her, alerted the court about Marquez's habits. That's not normal, and it makes you wonder just how deep the problems between them really go. And here's the bottom line: unless Marquez can prove stability, cleanliness, and responsibility, overnight visits with his daughter are off the table. Honestly? That's fair. Raising a child requires structure and safety. If he can't show that, then why risk the child's well-being? But at the same time, you can already see how this opens the door for more fighting between him and Trisha. If Marquez struggles to meet these conditions, we're looking at endless back-and-forth arguments, more court dates, and more drama spilling out for the world to see. Now, this next part is where things really get juicy. The judge added a special condition for Trisha. She is not allowed to live with her daughter and a romantic partner unless she's married to them. Let me repeat that: Trisha can only live with a partner if she is legally married. And we all know who that's directed at: Ken. Trisha and Ken have been cohabitating, and now they're in a tight spot. If they want to keep living together, marriage is their only option. Otherwise, Ken has to move out. This is huge because courts don't usually make rules like this unless someone pushed for it. And who do you think that was? Marquez. It sounds like he argued that Ken shouldn't be around his daughter unless it was within a legal marriage. Maybe he claimed Ken was dangerous. Maybe he just wanted control. Whatever the case, the judge listened and wrote it into law. And here's the part that made jaws drop: the order took immediate effect. Ken was supposed to be out of the house by 5 p.m. on August 25th if they weren't married by then. That's right, instant enforcement, no wiggle room. But how exactly do you enforce something like that? Relationships aren't always black and white. What does it mean to live somewhere? Ken is a truck driver, which means he's on the road a lot. He could easily argue he's just visiting. He could stay 3 weeks at Trish's, leave for a week, then come back and technically claim he doesn't live there. You already know this is going to end up back in court at some point. The gray area here is way too big. Here's the bigger issue though: Trisha has never been in a rush to marry Ken. She's enjoyed having him around, but she always found reasons to avoid making it official. At first, her excuse was valid: she was still married to Marquez. But now that the divorce is finalized, that reason is gone. So what's stopping her now? Ken has been patient, maybe too patient. He's been there, playing the role, helping out, but you can tell the pressure is starting to weigh on him. He's been questioning things, asking if Trisha is really worth the wait, wondering if he's just her backup plan. And let's be honest, how long can a man accept being strung along before he decides enough is enough? From the outside, people are already noticing cracks in their relationship. Trisha keeps dodging the idea of marriage, while Ken keeps hanging on, hoping she'll change her mind. It's the kind of tension that reality TV loves, but in real life, it's heartbreaking. Here's what people don't understand: Trisha doesn't exactly come off as fun or exciting on screen, so folks are scratching their heads wondering why Ken is so dedicated to her. But love isn't always logical. To Ken, Trisha might feel like the best thing that's ever happened to him. Maybe he truly loves her. Maybe being with her brings him comfort. Or maybe he just doesn't believe he can do better. Whatever the reason, he sticks by her side, even when the rest of the world is questioning why. And in some way, that's what love is. It doesn't always make sense to outsiders, but to the people living it, it's real. For Ken, Trisha might be that one person he's willing to stand by, no matter how messy things get. Now let's talk about the money, because child support always stirs the pot. Marquez has been ordered to pay $3,000 a month in child support. Now, to some people, that might sound like a decent amount. But when you really think about the cost of raising a child, especially in today's world, that barely scratches the surface. That's groceries, maybe a couple bills, but it's not enough to cover everything. And since child support is usually calculated based on income, this suggests that Marquez isn't making much money right now. It raises questions about whether he's struggling financially. If that's the case, it's going to make things even harder for Trisha, because she'll be carrying most of the financial weight unless Ken steps in. But here's the twist I actually agree with: the judge ruled that their daughter is not allowed to appear on the show. No name, no image, no likeness, nothing. That's huge, because if you've been following, you know a lot of their drama has revolved around their daughter. Pickups, drop-offs, parenting arguments, it's been front and center. But now, the child is completely off limits for TV. And honestly, that's the best decision the court could have made. Kids don't need to be caught in the middle of reality TV drama. Huntsville courts have made similar rulings before, so this is consistent with how they've handled other cases. It protects the child from being exploited for entertainment, and it forces Trisha and Marquez to focus on parenting privately. Where does this leave everyone? So where does this leave us now? Trisha is standing at a crossroads. Does she finally marry Ken to keep him in her life? Or does she let him go and try to figure things out on her own? Ken has his own decisions to make. How long can he keep waiting for a woman who doesn't seem ready to commit? Is he going to keep playing the supportive boyfriend, or will he eventually realize he deserves more? And then there's Marquez. Will he step up, get his life together, and prove he's a stable father? Or will he keep falling short of the requirements, losing more and more ground in his daughter's life. And remember, this drama isn't happening in a vacuum. Other cast members are dealing with their own storms. Letitia and Mars Scott are fighting to hold their marriage together. Melody is focused on rebuilding herself and growing as a person. Maurice and Kimmy are working through their own struggles. And of course, Martel is still out there stirring the pot, keeping drama alive wherever he goes. That's why this show never loses steam. There's always a storm brewing somewhere. But even with everything else going on, this situation with Ken, Trisha, and Marquez is shaping up to be one of the most explosive storylines yet. Now it all comes down to the choices they make next. Will Trisha marry Ken, or will she find a way to work around the court order? Will Ken finally wake up and see his worth, or will he keep holding on to someone who might never give him the commitment he wants? And will Marquez pull himself together to be the father his daughter needs, or will the strict rules prove too much for him to overcome? These aren't just small questions, they're the kind of decisions that could shake Huntsville to its core. And from the way things are looking, this story is only going to get messier as time goes on. So buckle up, because we're not even close to the end.